Welcome back to Call Me By Your Game, the podcast where I, your host, Connor McCabe, bring on a guest to hear from them about a meaningful or memorable video game from a particular moment in their life. On the show, we talk to our guests as much about what made playing that game special or memorable as we will get into the context of how and when they had this moment with it in the first place and whatever surrounded that for them. A little bit of housekeeping up top is that if you like the show and you want to talk to other people who are also fans of Call Me By Your Game and all the other podcasts that we have going here on the network, you can join our Discord. I have a link in the show notes, whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening in a podcast app, you can find that there. If you're watching on Twitch right now, I actually don't have a link for that ready on Twitch, but if you go and look at our podcast, you'll be able to find that there. That's a great place where you can talk not only about what you like about the Call Me By Your Game podcast, but all the shows on our network. If you're a patron of ours at patreon.com/Super NPC Radio, that's where all of our bonus video game podcasts live, including our current Mass Effect Games Club that we're doing every Friday. There's special channels for you in there. And so, yeah, check out our Discord if you'd like. And also, check us out on YouTube if you're listening to the audio version only. You can find us. There's a link in the notes as well. And if you're watching on YouTube and you want to listen to the audio version, you're like, I'm tired of seeing Connor's face. I've had enough. I refuse to do this anymore. Then there's a link to a couple places where you can listen to the podcast in the audio feed only. But that'll do it for the housekeeping for this episode. And I'll finally introduce our guest for today's podcast. Please welcome to the microphone writer, actor, and comedian, Joe Fahey.
Oh, hello. Thank you for having me. I literally, right as you were saying that, I got a notification from Google being like, your verification code is this. And I'm like, someone's trying to hack into my email. Right as we're
to you
talking,
right now?
Right as we speak. So,
well, Joe, I want you to know, as buttoned up and as professional as we are here, if you need to take some time to just quickly log in somewhere and protect yourself, green light, pal.
You know what? I'm just not gonna. I just won't give that verification code to anyone. That's what I'll do. I'll just keep it to myself.
Yes, don't say it out loud, especially if whoever is trying to log in is watching this Twitch stream right now.
You brought me on to set up a heist to heist my email, didn't you?
Yes, this
distracted me.
This was a long con, and I almost got it past you, but you're just too clever. Please keep us posted, by the way, Joe.
I
will. We're all intrigued, and you're so welcome. I'm so glad to have you on. This is a very long time coming. You're someone I've wanted to have on the pod and have had on a Google spreadsheet for a criminal amount of time, 4 years at this point. But Joe, I know you how I know the majority of the guests on this podcast through the Los Angeles improv community.
Yes.
And I remember seeing you for what I kind of think is the first time, and I'm pretty sure I remember our first conversation, and I mean, countless significant moments in our friendship because we do go back a decent amount. But and feel free to corroborate or let me know if any of this doesn't track for you.
No, I want to hear your version and then I'll give my version.
And if we're lucky, Taylor's version. So what I remember is I first remember seeing you when I was on the mess hall team Busters performing at the Inner Sanctum. It was something about your face was so distinct that I would see you sitting on those couches in the Inner Sanctum, and I would just recognize your face. And I was like, I've been seeing that guy a little more often.
Yeah.
So there was seeing you around that a little more. And then the first conversation I think we ever had was either before or after. I think it was before a mock improv show where we got to talking, and I think you asked where I was from, and I told you Modesto, and you're like, oh, that's where Scott Peterson's from.
Yeah, it is. It's where that Lacey Peterson's murderer is from.
Yes. This was, and I want you to say, I'm not bringing this up to be like, Joe, you're the only person who's ever done this. You're how dare you? You're on the stand now. Adri Diaz also did the exact same thing when she found out I was from Modesto. So you're in good company.
Okay, cool. Yeah. We're both like into murders. We're just
Yes.
we're murder non-fic murders.
Oh, big time. And attaching people from those hometowns and making that their identifying trait. But I remember having that conversation with you. I don't know if this was the same show, but I remember a particularly memorable mock improv, which, don't worry, the listeners are quite familiar with because there's been many a mock performer who've been on the show.
Awesome.
But there was a mock improv show. And if you're new to the podcast, this is an indie show that still goes on at the Clubhouse in Los Angeles that Joe and I eventually would come to host together.
Yes.
But before this time, we were both, I don't even know if we were on the cast or if we were guesting, but we did a show where classically it's a mashup show where 40 of the same performers every week get mixed up onto 4 teams. And what happens occasionally is that the performers don't tell the hosts that they're not going to make it, or they tell them last minute. So some teams have 8 people and some have 4.
Yeah, or less.
Yes. Oh, and then we're just scrambling, asking people if they can go earlier or later. It's a whole. We could talk about that forever.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was.
I love doing that show. It's nice not to have to deal with that anymore.
Yes, 100%. That is something that when it came back from the pandemic, I was like, "Oh, this is great." And then immediately, 20 minutes into it, I was like, wait, no, why am I doing this again? I forgot why I'm actually hosting this.
Yeah.
Because I just, it was everything I just didn't miss about improv. It was
totally.
All that stuff came back to me.
Yes.
But
all that being said is that this was one of those nights way before we were hosting.
Yeah.
And we got put on a team with also past guests of the show, Raisa Licea and Oscar Montoya, and we did a 4-person set. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do.
I remember being intimidated because I didn't know you very well.
Yeah. And
I knew Oscar and Raisa, but I just felt out of my element. And I think we had a particularly great show.
Yeah, it was a fun. I do remember that, and I think Oscar made me wear some kind of Native American headdress and
like you had it on in the scene.
Yeah, he was like, why are you wearing a Native American headdress at this Wells Fargo or something like that? And I was like, I forget. I honestly just vaguely remember that and being
he put you in a tough place and to see how you could get out of it.
Yeah, and I think I was just like, I went to Coachella or something like that. I was playing on one of those. But yes, I do remember that was very fun.
Yes.
And then when I took over running mock, I was like, I need help with this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd known that you ran TNT so well.
Yeah.
And we were friends. We were in I think we had already done the practice group and stuff, right?
I think so. Yeah. We had at this time.
And I was just like, oh, Connor would be great to just run this with us. And because it was you, and then we got Jess Fensgaard.
Yes, who's still doing it.
Still running it.
Absolutely.
Doing a great job. Yeah. But yeah, I remember being like, oh yeah, once you jumped in, I was like, this is great, because it was tough. It was a hard show to run, especially because I was like, I want to make this the best show, best weekly show there is, and I think I got pretty close to making a pretty fun weekly show. It went from dwindling numbers to a packed show, and I was like, oh, this is what's really fun about mock, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Just having,
I think to your credit too, you also were instrumental in really massaging the culture of just the social aspect of that show. I remember when I started, and this could be something that all new or green or improvisers deal with, but I felt intimidated and I didn't always feel necessarily the most welcome.
Yes.
And I think there's always going to be a clickiness to that show. It's inevitable. But I think you did a great job of dissuading that significantly, which I feel like we heard from people.
Yeah. No, we definitely listened to, well, obviously people on the cast, but also outside of it, right? Where people would be like, oh, it seems like you guys are all clicky. And it was like, yeah, it was nice. It was just important to me to have people starting out in the community to be playing with like veterans of the community.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
And to like meet new people. And like I feel lucky that I got introduced to the people I got introduced to, right? Like I think it was just like, honestly, I think Greg Wallace was like a big intro into a lot of like people. Well, first off, Mock, because he ran Mock. So he was the first one to like invite me places. But like, but then Mock like sort of opened my world for so many things. So it was just like really important. I was like, yeah, there's lots of great improvisers that are, doing fun things that people don't really know, and they don't really know too many people. So it's just nice to bring them in.
Absolutely. And gosh, it was so much fun. I mean, like we could do a deep dive on Mock someday.
Oh yeah.
Because there's so much stuff to talk about it and like reminisce on. Just because I do want to hear a little bit more about you in a second. I want to say that you and I, to like sort of summarize more of our history together, that show really brought us together, working with each other every week. We were in a practice group together. I don't even know if I don't think we were ever on like an indie team together though.
I don't think so. Were you on Smoke Show? Were you on Smoke Show?
I was not on Smoke Show.
Okay, never mind. Then Smoke Show had like has had 4 shows total.
I definitely put Smoke Show up at TNT though.
Yes, that's right. Yes, it was. Okay, so that was one of the 4 shows we've had.
That's amazing.
No, yeah, we've never been on an actual team together besides the Herald team. Besides and that practice group.
Dude, we've talked about it, but like Joe and I then got put on our first Herald team together back in September 2019. It'll only be 5 years ago this September, which is frightening.
Jeez.
But makes us feel old. But that was awesome. It was cool that like so many of our good friends got put together, and we're all still on Herald Night. We're on different teams now. We don't see each other as often, but like just a nice, rich, storied history.
Yeah, like all good pals.
Truly.
Yeah, good pals with everyone on that team. I love everyone
so good
on that team.
Yeah. I've really belabored the improv point and like gotten into our friendship a ton, and I'm sure more of that will come up as we go. But outside of that and, our friendship, what do you want to share about yourself with the listener, Joe? Is there anything that you want to promote or tell us about yourself?
I mean, a lot of my stuff is just within the community and doing improv and teaching and whatnot. But, I mean, I'm mainly, I am on a new Herald team, like Connor said, and it's called Lohan. We share the same night as XOXO.
Yes.
I also host One Big Jam every week, which is UCB's jam. So if you ever want to try improv, come by. It's on Sundays at 5:30. We'll get you up on the Franklin stage and support the hell out of you. So you can do some fun stuff.
Great chance to like, whether you're green or just like looking to just have fun or do a set and shake the rust off, like a great place for that.
Yeah. No, it's really, super fun, especially with like auditions coming up. It'll be good.
Oh, I bet it'll be back.
It'll be popping. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I'm an actor, I'm a writer. I don't know.
You do it all.
I got some stuff in the works, couple commercials, couple TV shows, couple.
Well, for the listener, they've probably seen you in commercials and other things over the years, but that is exciting to hear that there's stuff in the works as well.
Yeah, some are coming out. We'll see. They said maybe Super Bowl, but we'll see. I don't know.
Well, keep your eyes open, listener, and that's where in 4 weeks I go back and insert whatever it was. That's really cool, Joe. truly like if you have other stuff you want to plug, whether it's social media or your shows again.
Oh yeah. Just check me out on social media. It's Joe Fahey, JoeKeenFahey. That's on Instagram, and I have like a bunch of classes, all my shows and stuff up there. If you guys want to check them out, no pressure.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, maybe like some of my photos with my wife. I don't know.
Yeah, just be like, wow, honey, look, we're getting a few more likes. We're getting some traction.
I told everyone to like your photo, honey.
Yeah. Well, I'll anything that you and I plug today, I'll put a link in the show notes so the listener can just like click and follow stuff there.
Awesome.
Before we discuss your general history with video games, Joe, I would love for you to tell us what you've brought on today for the main event and Call Me By Your Game.
Yeah, so for Call Me By Your Game, I've brought on Call of Duty Warzone. Did I say this right? I feel like, did I do it right? You
nailed it.
Okay, cool, awesome. Yeah, I brought on Call of Duty Warzone. It's a game that I think lived not just in my just was a big part of my life for a couple of years, but probably for a lot of people because it was a very popular, what I like to call a pandemic game.
Big time.
Yeah. So, and that's just kind of my sort of history with video games, and it's like my history with video games in general. It's all my games are pandemic games. No, I'm joking. But most of my games have always been that I've been like played with, other than the simple fact of like watching like my older brothers playing video games, which I think is a lot of kids people have done. So I'd watch my brothers play like Secret of Mana when it was like Super Nintendo, and I was like obsessed with that, and obviously like the Zelda game from Super Nintendo, and then when PlayStation came around, it would be like Final Fantasy 7, 8,
some big ones,
9, Resident Evil, and then kind of like got into like playing video games myself. Like a lot of times my video games were just regular Nintendo, and I would play like with my dad, like we would play like Dr. Mario or this game called Qbert. Have you ever played that?
I know Qbert.
Qbert was like a fun game. I really wanted to play always, like I would always die though. Who Framed Roger Rabbit would be a game that I would play.
Oh my gosh.
I was so bad at it because I would always get killed by those gangsters.
Dude, I know that game.
It's a tough game.
Very well. It's brutal. Yeah. It's weird. It's harsh. It's hostile to the player.
Yeah.
I loved that movie as a kid. Still like probably a top 10 personal favorite. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be fun, and like just got the shit kicked out of me in that game.
It's so hard. It's like hard to go past any level, like and do anything in that game. So that was one that would like be kind of like my history. But then as I got older into high school, all of my games would become bonding moments with my friends, right?
Oh, it was cool.
So it would never be like, oh, I went from like watching my brothers play like RPGs and whatnot like that, but and then I would like just play like Halo or the Call of Duties, right?
Yes.
Like any kind of like FIFA was another like game that we would just play hours upon hours of playing. I should have done that. FIFA 11, FIFA 12. Oof. Man, that was so much.
Well, part of the reason that I do this, history with games portion for the first half of the show is because, people have more to share about than just the game they bring on for the main event. So actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to slow us down and like I want to dive into a little bit of this, which will help get us warmed up for Warzone later. But where I want to start with this most recent thing you've shared is when you would play these like bonding games like these multiplayer shooters or FIFA, would you do that at like your house? Were you going to friends' houses? Give me some of the context there.
It's a little combination of both, right? So I was the first one in my friend group to get an Xbox.
Oh, like the original?
The original Xbox. So a lot of my friends would come over and play Halo, right? Because Halo is exclusive to Xbox.
Dude, I'm playing. Jeremy Schmidt and I are playing through it together right now.
Yeah.
In fact, we stream it on Tuesday nights. So we're just going through that campaign in co-op. So I have a lot of nostalgia for that.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like a revolutionary thing because I don't think any system had done 4 players.
I don't
split screen or
I
guess N64 was like that. What am I talking about? But I mean,
but
with the graphics and everything, and just like how extensive the multiplayer was of that time. It was just like so beautiful and eerie, and I just remember sitting in like a basement with all my friends, and we're just eating junk food and drinking soda and
the dream.
Playing this game.
One thing that it truly did that modernized first-person shooters on consoles, at least, was it was the first game to popularize the way that we play shooters on controllers now, which is using the 2 sticks,
double
one for
sticks.
the camera, bingo. Where even on the N64 and GoldenEye, like you're not exactly doing that, and the control scheme was funky.
Yes.
The PC was easy because you got a mouse, and that acts as your camera, but. Yeah, that's what Halo really did that was impactful.
Well, that's
one
it.
of the things.
That's it. That must be it. I will say, though, and I don't know if maybe you could touch on this, I play inverted controls. Have you ever?
Oh, yeah. Is that... I always forget which that is, if it's you press forward and the camera goes down or up. I can't remember.
Yeah, so if you press up, the camera will go down, and if you press down, it'll go up.
You're a pilot.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm like, which system turned my brain into playing that way? Because, or like what game did that? Because
it could have been Halo because they had the option back then.
Yeah, no, obviously, but I think I found it natural to do that even before Halo, where I'm like, what exactly? What about my brain about that? They should do like I don't know, some kind of documentary on inverted controller players.
I bet if we pull up YouTube, there's someone who's probably talked about that, or like first-person shooters in general and how the control schemes changed over the years.
Yeah.
Thank you. And this is all in LA, right? Because you grew up for the most part in LA?
Yeah, so a mix. So like I moved here on probably towards the end of my freshman year. So
okay.
This was probably like 7th to 9th grade, and then when I moved to LA, it was also just a big part of meeting people and just like having friends. Just was video games, right? Because I didn't really know too many people when I first moved here, obviously, and so a lot of my friends were like made by playing video games, doing the group ones, yeah. So
that's cool.
Like, yeah. It was like Madden or FIFA, not just Halo. Yeah, it was also sports games because I was really into sports too.
Yeah.
So,
That's cool. So I have a few more questions for you just about your general history, where I want to go with. Where I want to go now is that after this period, did you continue gaming even like casually after that? Like what was that time between that sort of high school era and this era that we're in now? Like, or anything that sticks out to you?
Yeah, I mean, it still was a bonding sort of hangout that I would do with like my friends like throughout the years, like like every Call of Duty I remember would be like some kind of hangout sesh. It would, I just an enormous amount of pizza, like just an exorbitant amount of pizza.
Yeah.
And at that time, beer and whiskey and all that stuff. especially for like Black Ops and like Black Ops 2 and the
Yes.
Modern Warfares and stuff like that. Those were all World at War. Any of the FIFAs, it was just a lot of like, what are you doing? Let's I'm over at Jesse's playing World at War right now. Okay, cool. I'm gonna come over.
Yeah.
And then it would just grow into like 8 people.
Yeah.
And then you're just switching off controllers, playing zombies, trying to get to the highest level you can for the night.
Yes.
So it was always like, what are you doing? And smoking weed. Yeah, a lot of weed smoking.
Dude, if you're if you're in a basement.
Yeah. I mean, this was now like, as you're saying, like moved on from the basements to like, this is 1920 to like 20, probably like 6.
Yes.
25 maybe.
That sounds like that sort of era.
Yeah.
That's great. Where I kind of want to take us now to begin to wrap this part up a little bit is that I know that you've done a bit of gaming since at least the pandemic started. I'm sure Warzone had a lot to do with it, which we're going to get into. Since that time, have there been any other highlights for you of games that you want to talk about today?
Since Warzone?
Yeah, or since like you got back into gaming a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the only other game I played was probably one of the best games I think I've ever played was Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, of course.
It's like, honestly, the most beautiful game. But I have this tendency to start like being like, oh, I'm going to start gaming, and I'll pick up a game like Red Dead Redemption 2, like a long, tedious game. And then I am very notorious for not finishing it. Like, I still have not finished Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yes.
I still have not finished The Witcher 3.
Oh, I forgot you played that.
I played that for a bit. And I think what it is like, I would just like really jam on it for a long, long time. And then I'd just be like, oh, I need to like hang out with people. Right. And I would feel very strange not being around people. And then like, obviously you don't want to invite maybe I should have invited you, but you probably would have liked it watching me play. But
I would have been the cheerleader.
Yeah, you would have been
watching you beat Geralt.
Yeah, good job, dude. Get him.
Oh, that looks like a good thing of beans you just made.
Yeah. Get that ghoul. Finish that quest.
Were you like binging these experiences, like playing like a ton? Yeah, I think that'll do it.
It'll fuck you up. And like that's just my story. I'm a binger through everything. I binge everything.
Yes.
So, but then like I'm like, I'm full.
Yep.
I'm so full, and then I need to like quit and take a break. So
especially well, I was gonna say with those two experiences specifically, those are huge open world games that you could spend hundreds of hours in, and so I definitely wouldn't beat yourself up over not finishing them, because I think a lot of people don't. But yeah, they're just, and I've done that plenty of times. Like Skyrim is one of my all-time favorite games. I have never finished the main quest, and I played it like 3 times.
Same. I mean, I haven't played it 3 times, but I didn't. I played it once, and I think I like logged like 70 hours. And that gives me anxiety too, is like seeing the hours logged, and then I'm like, oh my god, I don't know what it is, but about my life, but I'll be like, oh my god, I could have written 70 movies in that time or something.
An hour.
Yeah. I could have written like 4 Oscar-winning films instead of doing this. And then I'm like, and it's like not true. Like, obviously.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, this is something, especially because so many of my guests are writers and actors and people in other creative fields. This is something that comes up a lot with video games, is like that, like this sort of sense of guilt that can set in. And, you know, a lot of people, I think a lot of people have similar relationships to games as you do. Is like you kind of binge, you almost get it out of your system. I was talking to Chris Chalakian about this actually. And then you're back to, you know, your priorities. Whereas, or you could be someone like me who makes it like a fraction of your personality and like half of the things you do is games related.
Yeah. No, that's cool though. I mean, I'd much rather have that. I wonder if that's just because you are kind of given these stipulations when you're younger of like being like, if you're like, I see it with my nephews right now. Like my brother has 4 kids, and the way he treats the games for them is like, he's like, you can play 1 hour a week for like on Saturdays, you know? And I wonder if like having those stipulations or not having them when you're younger, however, like if that adds to feeling like guilty about it. I don't know. I just thought it was weird. It was just weird. Yeah. It's a weird
I bet
thing.
there's a lot of psychoanalyzing we could do about that.
Because I literally would be like, let the kids play it and get really good and then make hundreds of millions of dollars doing Fortnite. I'm like, let's fucking put the baseball down. Like, you know, like these kids don't want to play baseball. They want to fucking shoot plants and zombies or whatever. Yeah. You know, get them good. Get them in
Let's get on this money train of our nieces and nephews.
Get them to, I was like, should I get them piano lessons as like a gift? I was like, no, I should get them esports.
Like esports sponsorship or whatever.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Joe, before we head to break, is there any game or like experience from your history that you haven't gotten to mention yet that you would just be bummed out if you didn't during this period? Or I know you mentioned at least one game to me that you hadn't brought up quite yet.
Oh, I had another game. I played Civilization. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. That's also another pandemic game.
Nice.
But also post-pandemic. I started playing it recently because I took a long plane ride. And it's one of those binging games, though.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
and it takes so long because it's turn-based. And, you know, I'm playing on a pretty high level right now, which I think is, I can't remember but I'm playing on but I'm like dominant. I'm like crushing.
Yeah.
I'm like crushing as the leader of Japan. But I'm also like doing it slowly because I'm like, oh, well, I'm dominating. I'm going to win this eventually. So like, do I really want to finish it out, or do I want to start a new game? And
sure.
And I'm like, I don't want to start a new game. So I think I'm binged out of it. I got all binged out.
It's out of your system now.
As usual. Yeah.
Hey, well, you know what? It's just your pattern, and it's how you do it. But Joe, I'm sure we could have spent a lot more time on any of these, you know, periods of your life. But thanks for sharing just your general history with video games. We're gonna go ahead and take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll discuss all things Warzone. So I'll see you on the other side.
Greetings, Commander Jeremy.
Greetings, Commander Connor.
And I'm Otacon.
We are here to spread the news about our Mass Effect Games Club on patreon.com/SuperNPCRadio.
Whether you're Aquarian, Solarian, or Vegetarian, you can play along with the show as we cruise through Mass Effect 1 and discuss our journey on a new podcast episode every Friday.
You can listen to the entire thing by supporting us at the $5 DJ Toad tier and above at patreon.com/SuperNPCRadio.
Call me a Paragon or Renegade, if you're nasty.
Hey guys, look! Here comes Garrus. He's so hot.
Why don't you try and romance him?
Here he comes now.
Hello, humans. Something smells a little funny.
It's piss. I'm sorry.
Yuck. Well, Otacon, it was worth a shot.
Who could have predicted that?
Check out the Mass Effect Games Club over at patreon.com/SuperNPCRadio.
Welcome back to Call Me by Your Game. It's, of course, me, your host, still here, Connor McCabe, and I'm back with Joe Fahey. Hey, Joe.
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Oh, just golden, man. I got a fresh half cup of coffee here. I couldn't be better.
How many cups of coffee you drink a day?
Dude, I drink so much coffee.
Really?
Yes, it's mostly habitual. Caffeine doesn't affect me significantly. Like, I could, if I for some reason wanted to, drink a cup of coffee and go to sleep. And I know for that's not the case for a lot of people. Yeah. Does caffeine affect you?
Yeah, I had to cut down to 1 cup because I would drink a couple cups more, few cups a day.
Yeah.
And now I'm just down to 1 in the morning. But after like an hour and a half of being up, because I want to train my body for getting up without the coffee.
Yes.
First, which I did like last year.
Huge.
Which is like nice, yeah.
Nice going. Was it like the caffeine? Was the caffeine the issue? Is intaking too much caffeine? That's probably bad for us, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was just really yeah, that's probably bad. It was affecting my sleep pretty much. Like anytime I would have it after like close to 5 o'clock, like I would be up till 5 a.m. Like from it, yeah. Or if I have like a Coca-Cola or something like that,
That's
ruined.
brutal.
I'm ruined. Yeah.
Well, to answer your question, Joe, I probably have like 3 to 4 cups of coffee throughout the day.
Yeah.
And it's mostly because I like a warm beverage. I like tea, but I definitely prefer coffee.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I should probably drink more tea because I think that's supposed to be better for you. Well, I think it's great that we dove into the minutia of that because it's important stuff for us to figure out. Joe, during the main event here, we're going to finally get into, all things Call of Duty Warzone. Before, though, we hear about your history, I'm going to do a little table setting and just share some facts about this game and some context with the listener. But if you want to jump in at any time, you're more than welcome to.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Well, without further ado, I'll go ahead and monologue for a little bit. Call of Duty Warzone is a free-to-play battle royale video game, or was, when it was out, at least the first version of it, developed by Raven Software and Infinity Ward and published by Activision. The game was released on March 10th, 2020. So, you were talking about it being a pandemic game. I think March 11th, if I'm remembering correctly, was like the day that it all became real to me. Yeah. I think we're probably going to talk about this a lot, but Joe, we had this. Okay, you'll remember this. To bring it back to Mock Improv, this was in the middle of Mock Improv's cage match run where we had different teams going up, and I think 2 of our teams got to go, and actually 3, and the third team went up on I think March 11th and couldn't, and the other team didn't show up because of COVID fear started to set in. Anyway. This game was released on March 10th, 2020, originally for PlayStation 4, Windows, and Xbox One as a part of 2019's Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and then was connected to Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War later that year in 2020, and then 2021's Call of Duty Vanguard, but does not require purchase of any of the aforementioned titles. It's a free-to-play multiplayer Call of Duty game. It allows online multiplayer combat among 150 players and features both cross-platform play and cross-platform progression between the 3 games, depending on where you're playing it from. Yeah. At launch, the game featured 2 main game modes, Battle Royale and Plunder. Warzone introduces a new in-game currency system that can be used at buy stations in and around the map. Loadout drops are a key in-game object allowing players to access and switch between their customized classes and are obtainable through purchase with a cash currency. And players could also use this to purchase items such as kill streaks and gas masks. So I think in-game abilities, but also like cosmetics, if I'm tracking that correctly.
You can buy... No, the gas masks are because there's gas closing in on you.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, kind of like how Fortnite has the whatever that is.
I see
that
the like
shuts on.
ring that closes.
Yeah, that ring.
Yes.
So the gas masks are to help you be in that for a little bit longer than
interesting.
if you're like running through it or something.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it would not attack your health as much. Or something
Yeah, you
like
could
that.
last a
Yeah.
little longer out in that
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
Very cool. Let's see what else. At launch, Warzone only offered trios, a squad capacity of 3 players. Solos, duos, and quads were eventually added to the game in some post-launch updates. And upon release, Warzone received generally favorable reviews from critics. Warzone was downloaded by 6 million people within 24 hours of its initial release. And by April 2021, the game surpassed 100 million downloads. A sequel, Call of Duty Warzone 2.0, was released on November 16th, 2022. A mobile version of Warzone is allegedly also in development. And in 2023, in June actually, Activision announced that the servers for Warzone would be shut down and to focus to more development on Warzone 2.0. And you might know this if you still play the game, but is Warzone 3.0 out yet? No, it's just 2.
My this is what we'll talk about is as my Warzone kind of like ended that November.
Yes,
Like,
yeah.
It was like honestly just for that first like sort of year maybe.
Yes.
But even then it was just like it kind of just went away.
Totally.
Yeah.
Joe, as far as like the game goes and context that's important, whether you want to dive in on like a detail or a game mode or anything really, is there any context that you want to continue to lay out before we get into your history with it?
Yeah. I mean, I think you pretty much said it, right? You just said the date and it was pandemic. So I think at this point, this was like really just besides whoever my bubble was that I was living with. At that time, it was my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, and my brother and his girlfriend, now fiance. So this was like a good opportunity to hang out with other people.
Yeah, like
And,
a social experience when you didn't have a lot of those.
Exactly. And it was also a good opportunity to hang out with people that I hadn't hung out with in real life in a long time.
Sure.
So it was like they were just posting, oh yeah, like playing Warzone, and I'd be like, what's your tag? And then we'd jump on a game together. But then it would also like be able to see like hang out with my best friend, like Steven Sanow, who would be like, that was my opportunity to hang out with him, right?
Totally.
Was by playing that.
I've got some questions for you already, which is at the time, and I think I know the answer to this. What console did you have, or did you buy a console to play this?
So I had an Xbox. Was it
One?
Xbox One. Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, what's the newest one? I have the newest one.
Xbox Series X or S.
That's the newest, the most recent one. I have that. I think it was an Xbox One then.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because it was right after the 360. It was like 360 plus 360 equals 1. I don't know how that math.
Their naming conventions for their systems is always confusing.
It's very weird. It's just why. Yeah, what's the point of this? So it was the Xbox One. I had that.
Gotcha. Okay. So you already had that. Was this something that like because you had played Call of Duties before? Was this a game that like you were anticipating, or was it a result, kind of maybe what you're getting into, of the pandemic and it popped up for you?
Because honestly, I had no idea. I had sort of given up on any kind of video game, like,
Yeah.
because my life was hanging out with people, right? So like when you get older and your friends are less and less likely to, hang out and smoke pot and eat pizza and play multiplayer online, you don't really think about it. And then a pandemic hits, and then everybody wants to smoke pot and eat pizza and play
Yes.
multiplayer online.
Yeah,
It's the
like-
only thing you want to do to keep your mind off of the tragedy happening
Yeah.
outside. Yeah.
Absolutely. So do you remember like is it more of a general memory of like, oh, you must have downloaded this at some point to play
Yeah.
with someone?
Yeah, so it was my brother. My brother knew about it because his group of friends were like, hey, you should download this. Like, this is what we're gonna do. Because I was like, oh, should I? Because I had played Fortnite a little bit with my other friend.
Yeah.
But like my other friend like sold his Xbox, so I was like, oh, I don't really have any friends that are doing anything. But my brother started playing this, and I was like, what's this?
Yes.
So then we started playing together.
And this is Matthew, right?
Yeah, Matthew. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we started playing as well, and then so it was just like super fun. And then we were playing with his group of friends that were made up of like other actors, and then like one guy's friends from all his friends from like Minnesota.
Uh-huh.
I think there was like. Oh, there was also like a cop in there that I would always like talk shit to during the summer, because it was also a very like
Tumultuous time.
And
Yeah.
so like I would just like kind of egg him on and try and get him to quit his job.
Doing the
Well,
Lord's
like,
work.
just like bullying him.
Yeah.
And just telling people I would send Knock LA, Knock LA.
Yeah, for sure.
I would send like all their voters guides to like everybody, and I'd be like, you guys, if you're voting this, Tuesday, like, here you go. This is a great guide
Yes.
for what you do. And the guy would be like, this is very progressive. To the point where like everybody was like, hey, let's not talk politics or anything.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because like I think with the exception of like me, the cop, and then my brother and this other guy, like no one lived in LA. So like it was
Sure.
just like they were like,
So even
they were like,
contextually, it wasn't
they were
relevant
like,
to most
we don't
people.
care about like Garcetti and we don't care about LA politics.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, so we were all in a group chat when January 6th happened. And they were like, I just remember everybody being like, I'm just disgusted. Who wants to get on and play?
That's so funny. I need to
And,
take out some of my anger.
They were like, I just need to turn off the TV. Like,
Yeah.
let's do something else. And then, we just all like a few people. I had that point like had just kind of stopped playing so often. I just had world was opening back up a little bit, so I was like, let me try and get I don't know.
Just
I was
go
able to
outside a
see
little bit.
exactly, like see people in person. So it was
Especially that time, that was like right as the vaccines were starting to roll out publicly,
exactly.
early 2021. So I think,
Yeah.
even though it was slow and everyone was kind of getting them at different times, there was more opportunity to feel a little more safe when you're going out.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think like just we'd had like about a year of it being like, oh yeah, if you're outside and you're 5 feet away, like there was times where I remember early on we would be masked up outside,
Yeah,
20
for
feet
sure.
away, being like, hey, I hope you're
Yeah.
okay. And it's just like, at by that time we would have been like, yeah, you could be outside and you're most likely not gonna get this thing unless
Totally.
you're like, inhaling someone, someone's breath. Like you're for the most part good. So yeah, with more like science and everything out, like we started to like open it back up, and just like start to do things again and get human interaction.
Yeah.
Which was
even
nice.
that whole, especially, I mean, we're still learning a lot, but like, especially back then in like 2020, when it first hit, there were so many unknowns and so much that we weren't aware of, or like they didn't have data on, that made it more scary and more of us take additional precautions, which is why, like, especially at the beginning during like lockdown or quarantine, that like most of us weren't going to see other people at all. Which ended up like there was like 2 weeks, I think, where it was kind of a nice little excuse to slow down and to not do anything and to just relax and make food and drink and play games all the time. But then that honeymoon period wore off, and it was like, oh, this is actually really isolating, and everyone's depressed sort of thing.
Yeah, it was I also had like never really, I've always been like an in-person kind of like hang out with people, right? I don't know about you, because you had the podcast at the time, or maybe you hadn't yet, but you had just started it, right?
I had started it in November 2019. So like I recorded maybe like 18 episodes in person. Yeah. And then we used to do it actually at Jeremy Schmidt, for everyone knows, producer of the show. Yeah. We used to do it at his place.
Yes. I remember.
And then the pandemic hit, and like I'm buying this microphone and wondering like, how do I even record a podcast with somebody online? Yeah. So that was very strange and a weird adjustment for all of that stuff specifically. Were you obviously didn't live with Vidya at the time. No. But did you have a roommate? What was your living situation like?
Yeah, I lived with my brother and my brother's girlfriend. And then we had a third roommate, Sophia.
Oh my gosh.
Grosso.
Yes, the legend.
But she early on quarantined from us, and so she could go be with her family, which makes sense, you know. Mm-hmm. So she like did the whole 30 days or isolation.
Yeah.
But I think too, what I realized about was so cool about Warzone was I liked having an activity to do with someone. Like it made me depressed to be on Zoom with people and just be like, hey, how's it going? Like, let's drink these cocktails, and what have you been up to? Or like, it was just like all of those things. I was like, this is not fun for me, but like talking to someone and like having someone there and like doing a mission was like, honestly, just very calming during that time. The other stuff made me very depressed. Like doing any improv made me depressed. I coached, I think, a team right when the theater shut down that like Thursday. I coached them and I was like, guys, this is actually really horrible for me. Like I feel depressed about this. So.
And it is your improv that is making me feel depressed.
No, I didn't. I made sure to like tell them that it wasn't them that was making me depressed. I was like, this just is, it's a lot. It's overwhelming at the moment. So let me see if it gets better as we go on. But it never did. It never got better for me. Because it was just such a fun, awesome thing that I got to see all my friends with, and then to do it on Zoom, it wasn't the same. So it just like kind of threw me off. But
you're not alone. A lot of people felt that way, and it made sense.
Yeah,
for sure.
No, absolutely. But somehow Warzone made sense. Like it just like everything else communication wise, I'd stop talking to people that I wouldn't see every day and didn't need to text every day. And then like with Warzone though, I was like, let's get my group. Let's get different groups. Let's, Costanza, Nick Costanza.
Yeah,
I played with him a few times. Jesse Esparza, who I was like,
really?
I didn't even know that they were a gamer.
Yeah.
Just started gaming with us. Like we were in a group. It was me, Sanao, and Jesse, and one of the most fun people to play Warzone with.
That's
very
amazing.
expressive.
Yeah.
Over the
There's
mic.
something that comes up on the podcast a lot. It's a recurring idea that I've talked about quite, I think, as recently as 2 episodes ago with Corinne Wells, and that is that one of the things I enjoy most about video games and just activities in general, but games can do this too, is that it gives you that activity to do so you can just hang out. And it's harder if you're just on a Zoom, just chatting.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like making small talk with someone at a bar where that's not always comfortable. And then when you can chill out and have a good time, sometimes it is fun, but other times it's like pulling teeth. And so it sounds like the Warzone kind of fit that bill for you a bit.
Yeah, it's I think just having that agenda, right? And that sort of group task, right?
Yes, for sure.
And we could talk. We don't have to talk about anything because nothing's going on in our lives anyways, right?
Bingo.
So we could just literally talk about the game, right?
Yeah.
So I think you're absolutely right. It's definitely giving you that activity is great.
Yeah.
I also remember too, I forgot about, not that I forgot about this, but I went through some really scary, besides the COVID thing, I went through a very serious health scare where I had a tumor in my chest.
Yes.
And Warzone, I would play Warzone with that to get my mind off of it because
for sure,
because it was something that, obviously I couldn't not think about, right? This just unknown of, what was happening inside my body.
More uncertainty on top of uncertainty.
Yeah. So I do owe Warzone a lot for that. Just to help me, give me a little reprieve from crying about my impending doom.
Yeah, for sure.
That I for sure thought I had done, but it was there for me during that.
That's cool.
Well.
I'm glad it could.
And post too.
Yeah.
And post. I would I couldn't move. I remember because I had my chest cut open.
Yeah.
And I remember they were don't. They were it'll be really hard for you if you're by yourself to get back up if you lay flat. So they were sit up and so that you are never incapacitated.
Yes.
So I remember I would just always be sitting up, and that's a perfect way to play video games is so just to be sitting up. So I'd just be sitting up when I'd fall asleep, when I'd be sitting, obviously just always, there. So I would still be able to play. I do remember they were don't jerk. And one time, sometimes when you're playing, you're just sort of do a jerk with your controller. So I did that a couple times and I was and just felt got hit by a bus.
Yes.
Maybe popped a stitch or two.
Dang. Well, I'm so glad that it could, be that for you and that way to relax and calm down and take your mind off of things, which I think games often can fit that role for people. I would like to ask you a little bit about the game itself.
Sure.
And maybe, and if there's nothing specific, that's totally fine. The first question I have is do you remember a certain mode or a type of way that you like to play this game, or the way that you would have the most fun playing?
Yeah, trios was the OG, so we would play a lot of trios, and there would be a lot, because there would be a large group of us. We'd all be jumping in and out of each other's parties. So it'd be switching up, and it was cool to Plunder was fun when that came out, and then I guess when Black Ops came out, Cold War came out, and that was fine because we jumped into some multiplayer. Back in by buying it and playing some multiplayer. But trios was the main thing, and then solos. I just was never good at solos. I always had to be with in a duos or a trios or a quads.
You're just such a team player, Joe.
honestly, I'm so bad at it and I never like focused on getting good at it. So I was just like, oh, I'm a good support player for this, but
Yeah.
got some good dubs. Got a lot of dubs, nice dubs.
I love that. Do
Playing.
you like? And if there's nothing specific, that's fine because I am asking you to think back kind of far. Do you have it? Were there any matches that were particularly memorable, or like feelings that you remember having, or like anything exciting like that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. Getting a dub it's like no other feeling.
Yeah. Because it's a huge pool of people. In
Yeah,
this
because
battle right now.
that's what it was. It like 150. Did you say it was
Yeah,
like
that's
150
crazy.
people? Yeah. So it's 150 people or like 50 groups, right? And you're all, and the map is huge too. It's a very big map. Yeah, and then you're like, yeah, you're playing army guy. I think this is like another thing too. Is like as a kid, I loved playing army guy.
Yes.
So like this was just
you
like
famously love World War II.
I love
Is that the
war
one?
stuff. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
World War II. I love World War One. I love like war history and stuff.
It came up in a lot of like openings we would do.
Yes, I
like
would always
maybe not a
compare.
lot, but like enough to where I clocked it.
It would come in, and I would just be like, "Yeah, I love war." So like, I love like all that stuff. But yeah, so I would, I really just like enjoyed playing that out. But yeah, nothing like winning a game. The most memorable have got to be just playing with Jesse Esparza because Jesse is so funny on the mic, like just
believe that.
screaming when we would get ambushed or something. It would be like, "Oh my god!" so loud, and you're just like you're like laughing at Jesse's response. But yeah, getting I think a dub with Jesse and Steven Santa was probably my finest moment.
That's awesome.
Definitely. And the most fun moment because of, just Jesse over the mic being like, "Oh my God, y'all, we did it."
That's so funny.
My Jesse Esparza impression.
Hey, it's pretty good.
Thank you.
Put it up against the real thing. You can't tell the difference.
Can't tell.
Did you have like a certain type of way that you like to play the game? Whether it was like our strategies or anything like that?
Well, first inverted controls.
Oh, of course.
I'll always have that. Which also was frustrating whenever my brother, it's frustrating for anyone who has to switch off with me.
Yeah.
So my brother who was like switching off with me had to always change it back, and that's for everybody. So inverted controls, but I don't know if there was like a certain way. We had our, like, depending on the group I was with, like we had our spots that we would jump to. One was like the train station that we would always, like the train depot was always our regular spot. Depending on like with Jesse and Steven, where we were like more just sort of like we'll hang out on the outskirts and then wait till the end. That one would be like, let's jump, into the woods, like essentially like into desertion. Let's just jump or the dam. The dam was like one area we would jump a lot to like just hide from people and sort of like get a dub with like 2 kills as opposed to like getting a dub with like 9 or 11, 9 or 10 kills.
Dude, the most success I have ever had playing like a battle royale game is when I have like mostly stayed on the outskirts and moved in when I had to.
Yeah.
That's probably because I'm not that good.
So like it just depends on the group I was with. So if it was like, that group of, people I didn't really know, like we would just be in the mix. Like we'd jump in the middle and we'd like work our way out right into the shit of it. But like, there was definitely a group where I would be like, hey, let's just hide in the outskirts of the stuff. Yeah.
That's cool. I have a couple more questions with you before we wrap this portion of the podcast up. The first of which this is something I meant to do at the beginning of this part. But can you, Joe, take me back to the room and the setup of where you were when you were playing this game and do a little scene painting for me?
Yeah. Yeah. So I rearranged my living room so many times during the
COVID?
pandemic. Yeah. Because I was like, this isn't good. This is the best way to use space. So
This is going to change my life.
So I'll give you with the latest
sure.
way we did it before we moved out of there. But it was TV on a nightstand, Xbox hidden within the console, our couch with also our sofa with a little like love seat,
Yes.
sort of off to the side. Facing the TV. When you walk in, you would see the back of the couch. So it was like a little closed off area that we sort of separated from the other part of the living room. The other half of the living room was like nice things. Like we decorated it nice because at this time my brother's girlfriend was living with us. So she was like, I'm going to make this nice. And we let her do it
Nice.
for sure. So yeah, it was basically, that was like my setup. And then depending on, so there was a few like COVID diagnosis, not on my part, but on the people I was living with.
Oh, for sure.
So the other thing was just like bringing the Xbox into my room and playing it there. To like, to sort of, that was pretty much it.
That's cool. Thank you. Were you guys, were you in the same area that you're in now?
Yeah, I'm a little bit down the street.
Okay, cool.
From where I was. I'm probably like Matt. You've been to Matt's place.
Yes.
He was that's over by like kind of where we lived.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. Yeah, that was like further down the street.
I actually can't believe it didn't come up earlier because I meant to bring it up, which is that one time I bought a Nintendo 3DS off of your brother.
Yeah.
In, I think it was 2021. And I still, it's right. I can see it from where I'm sitting. It's a nice console. And I think Jeremy bought one from you.
From me. Yeah.
Yes.
We both had these things that we never used.
Yeah.
Like our brother got them for us, the DSs. Mm-hmm. I just didn't know how to use it. Honestly, I just was like, I do not need to this is just too much to figure out how to play it and do it. So I think...
Well, they found good homes.
Yeah, because you were asking for them, right?
I think we were both looking, or you had been like, hey, do you know anyone who would want these? And I was like, yeah, I know two people. One of them is me.
Yeah. So, I did all of anytime I have a question about video games, I think I text you.
Hey, I'm really happy to be that person, truly. Happy to put you in the right direction or be like, oh, this is what you should ask for it. Lastly, Joe, you've talked a little bit about how your period with Warzone came to an end. Do you remember anything from that period, or was it just when the new one was coming out? I can't remember exactly what you shared with me.
Yeah, I mean, the new one came out and then it all just becomes overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
Especially with Battle Royale or multiplayer is that you sort of, if you're not dedicated to it and playing it every single day, you just sort of don't become good at it, right? And then you're getting killed instantly and it's just it's just a little frustrating. And I just get to that point. So it's just at that point, it's I don't have the time to do it. I want to spend, time doing other things. So
yeah,
I just sort of moved on, from that. Also, I think I just, that was also just a weird time because the election happened and I think I remember the last time I played was probably January 6th was the last time I played.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm pretty sure it was that group just hit me up and was oh, I'm sick to my stomach. Let's play Warzone.
Yeah.
But honestly, the Call of Duty, like as much as I love them, they're like any military game is a propaganda for our country to continue to fund wars and killing of innocent people in other countries.
Yeah.
So I think like a part of that sort of maybe a little radicalization happened
For
on my
sure.
part during that
Yeah.
year for sure. I think for a lot of people too.
Totally. That's, I mean, just between full transparency is like, for me, that's, I think, why if I play a shooter, I like something that's more of like a space shooter or that's just less realistic.
Yeah.
Less like militarized. I say that and I love the Halo series and they're very much like a military.
Sure.
But just in a more of a fictional setting.
Yeah, they're still like
stomach.
killing bugs or aliens and stuff like that. But
So I feel you there. Well, Joe, before we head to our post-show segments, would you do me a favor and just wrap up and put a bow on what place Warzone held for you?
yeah, Warzone was my cheers during the pandemic. That was it.
Awesome. Wow. That was gorgeous and just we wrapped it up in a nice little bow. Well, Joe, thank you for bringing on Warzone and just telling me about your experience with it. That was really fun to just hear a little bit about a time where we were still in contact and good friends, but like you were saying, you don't keep that good of contact with everybody. So it was nice to learn a little bit more about that period for you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Before we go, though, I do have some fun post-show segments prepared for you, Joe.
Awesome.
These all being based on you bringing Warzone on the podcast today. The first of which is the Fact Me by Your Game segment, and that's just where I'm going to share a fun fact about this video game with you.
Okay.
So I've titled this. This comes from an article from the website Ars Technica, and I've titled this fact, I guess we're releasing this. So Warzone, as we've already said, was released on March 10th, 2020, following a series of glitches and leaks in the preceding month. This Ars Technica, I think the article headline is like the worst kept secret in gaming, was that people knew this free-to-play Call of Duty multiplayer game was coming out, and Activision Infinity Ward, whoever's releasing it, just couldn't keep a lid on, so stuff kept leaking. So I guess the existence of the game had been leaked a month prior by a post on Reddit, and a software glitch that same month briefly allowed players to view an early version of the launch map, Verdansk, if you're familiar.
Verdansk.
Verdansk.
I mean, it's probably Verdansk, but
Either
Verdansk. Yeah.
2 days before the game came out, YouTube content creator Chaos published an 11-minute video featuring pre-release gameplay of the title, and the video was removed. And on March 9th, the next day, Warzone's publisher, Activision, officially announced the game would be released the next day. So they were like, all right, cat's out of the bag. We're just getting this thing out there. But pretty strange. That's got to be strange as a company who's like, because video game companies in general try to roll things out in such a specific way and create a buzz and excitement. So I'm sure that was frustrating for them.
Yeah, I mean, I hear they're a bad company though, right? Are they, like, you know more than I do, but most of those companies are bad. I only know it from being in SAG and knowing it from the union side of it, things, how bad they are and shady they are. But you probably know, more than I do.
Activision Blizzard specifically. Their now former CEO, Bobby Kotick, was known for had the worst reputation you could have in gaming, both from a enabling a lot of like really toxic behavior in the studio and abusive behavior, and also like being really like awful to employees and and just countless things. So yeah, not great, but anyway. That's it for the Fact Me by Your Game segment. I'll lead us into the final one, the game recommendations. Now, Joe, this is my one forced tie-in to the movie Call Me By Your Game, of which this show basically shares a name with. I said "Call Me by Your Game," didn't I?
Yeah.
It's "Call Me by Your Name." I do that half the time. Where I'm going to treat Warzone like your passionate summer love from Italy that you have such a memorable time with, but it's not going to work out and you're going to break up. So in order to help you get over that heartbreak, I'm going to provide 3 potential new flings for you that all have something in common with Warzone. So maybe one of these will be a match, help you get over this heartbreak. So the first of which is if you want to play another free-to-play shooter, but with a space twist. I would offer to you, Joe, a game you can play on your Xbox, Halo Infinite. Have you played the multiplayer for Halo Infinite?
I haven't played Halo since probably like Halo 2 or 3.
Oh,
Since
gotcha.
the first Xbox, yeah.
Yes. Do you have Game Pass?
I don't. I now my gaming consists of Rocket League. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
That
Every
was a
once in a while.
recommendation for Chris last week. Was Rocket League?
Rocket League is amazing. I love
Yes.
Rocket League.
So Halo Infinite is out there if you want a free-to-play shooter, but you want it to be in space, and which, from our conversation earlier, sounds like you'd be open to that.
Yeah.
If you want another team shooter that got, like Call of Duty Warzone, got killed so that its sequel could live, I'll recommend another game from Activision called Overwatch 2, which I know there's some diehard fans out there, but a lot of people also were pretty upset about this game.
Yeah, I've heard the stirrings about this game.
The issues, yeah.
Yeah, so not that I would know any of them, but
Yes.
yeah, I've heard.
I think too. This is sort of a bonus, but more specifically, since you like the battle royale mode, I don't know if you've played Apex Legends, but that's the only battle royale I've really played.
That's what I heard. Another game offered to me as well. Yeah.
Which I don't know if you know this, but Heather Woodward writes for Apex Legends.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah. She works over there at Respawn.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love Heather.
Dude, she's the best. A really early guest of this show. Lastly, Joe, your final recommendation is if you've had a change of heart and instead of forcing people into the afterlife by killing them in Call of Duty, you'd like to usher their souls into the afterlife in a very polite and just meaningful way. I'll recommend a game to you called Spiritfarer. Now, this is a game where you play as a character who basically helps usher people's souls who have died to the afterlife to help them accept death and that sort of thing. So if you're looking for sort of a dark subject that ends up being pretty heartfelt, then this might be the game for you.
Okay. Is it a multiplayer?
I'm pretty sure it's just a single player
Okay,
game.
all right.
And it's, I think, depressing but cathartic. Anyway,
You know what? I'll play it, and then I'll stop playing it midway through after 80 hours.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. To wrap up your recommendations today, we have Halo Infinite, Overwatch 2, and Spiritfarer. That'll do it for the recommendations, and
Thanks
that'll
so
actually
much.
bring us. Oh, you bet. And that'll bring us to the end of the show. So, before we go out and plug whatever we want, Joe, thanks again for taking the time to do this with me. This is fun to have an excuse to just hang out and chat.
Dude, I miss you. Every time I see you, I'm like so happy.
Dude,
don't
right
know.
back at you.
I saw your show the other night, and I was so happy seeing you. You're so funny.
Oh, thanks, pal.
Yeah, you're just a good dude. You're just a good guy.
Hey, well, I got my clip that I can clip from this just so everyone knows that I'm a good dude and funny good guy.
Yeah.
So thank you for you knew your assignment. That means a lot coming from one of the funniest performers. So I appreciate it, Joe.
Thanks, man.
But on your way out today, if you want to replug anything or let people know what you're up to, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, just hit me up on that social. I think Connor will probably tag it, and then it'll direct you to my website if you want to see the shows I'm doing, the classes I'm teaching, the photos I'm posting,
Ooh.
the videos I'm shooting. Yeah, all that stuff will be there. I'm trying to You could watch me on my journey of getting the healthiest I've ever gotten in my entire life this year.
2024.
Yeah. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start the healthiest, but also like building good habits.
Look at us.
Yeah,
That's maturity right there.
Yeah. So I think it's just like, less trying to like beat my body up and sort of preserve it a little bit, you know?
Love it. Well, Joe, I'll go ahead and put links to your stuff in the show notes.
Cool.
And I'll go ahead and close this out with some plugs of my own.
Great.
The cover art for Call Me By Your Game is done by Glenn J. You can find him and his other great work on Instagram at Glenn with 2 N's .jay. The show is produced, edited, and the original music that you hear at the top is done by Jeremy Schmidt. If you want to give him a thank you for all the work he does for my podcast, then you can go and listen to his show, Video Games, a Comedy Show, wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you.
You can follow me on social media at Connor_McCabe on Twitter and Instagram, at Connor McCabe on Blue Sky, at twitch.tv/consiscool69, where I stream not only almost every episode of this podcast, but myself playing video games, which currently I'm playing Halo 1 with Jeremy Schmidt, and then Legend of Zelda Minish Cap whenever I get to it. And you can, of course, hop in the Discord that we have for Super NPC Radio. There's a link in the show notes to that if you want to have, fun conversation with a bunch of lovely people. And lastly, if you like me and the conversations I have with people about video games, you got to check us out at patreon.com/Super NPC Radio. That's probably the best way that you can support the show if you want bonus content. There's a ton of tiers ranging, starting at $1 that all have bonus content that come with that. So if you're interested in supporting us and getting more shows, find a tier that's right for you. There's a bunch of stuff there on that link in the show notes. But
Sign up.
Sign up.
Sign up.
Else? That's all I'll say it every time. But that'll do it for this episode of Call Me By Your Game. We will see you on the next one.